pizza. Okay. All right. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome to another WonderCon panel. My name is Tony Kim. I'm so excited that you can join us for 2021 WonderCon at home, which a year ago we were doing WonderCon at home thinking, oh, this will be the only time we need to do this at home. But we are back a year later doing WonderCon panels from the comfort of our own home. But I'm not here by myself. I'm joined by Ming Chen and Yaya Han. Hey guys, welcome for joining us here. How are you?
Hi. Thanks for having
Hello.
me.
And
Thank you so much. It's really good to see you both.
you know, it's like remember when we were? Let me tell you a story. When we were kids, remember when we used to kind of get dressed up and then like go to something called conventions and like and hang out and nerd out. Like I remember those were the good old days. What was the last convention you remember going to before the pandemic hit?
Well, I'm a cosplayer, so I went to a very cosplay focused convention called KatsuCon in National Harbor, Maryland, but basically Washington D.C.
Okay.
That was February, Valentine's weekend, February 2020. And that was like the last time I saw my friends and met other cosplayers and dressed up at a convention in costume
So
over a year ago.
is having a convention during Valentine's Day, is that good or bad? I'm trying to figure that out.
It's always worked for KatsuCon
Yeah.
because everybody does like Valentine's outfits. They do
Okay.
Valentine versions of characters, and then they also make each other little Valentines. So like a character can give it to another character that maybe like that they ship or something. It's really cute.
That's cute. I was at C2E2 this exactly a year ago this weekend, and it was right. Everything was starting to go down. People were hearing about it, sort of the virus like pluming in Seattle, and fellow vendors and I were all getting nervous about, will we see each other at next week's WonderCon or I'm sorry, Emerald City Comic Con, or will we see each other at the following week's WonderCon? And we were all certain that, oh, this will blow over in a couple of weeks at least. I mean, this surely this is not going to take us out. So, but yeah, C2E2 Chicago was the last show I remember. So, how about you, Ming?
Yeah, I was at a convention called Astronomicon, which is in the Detroit area of Michigan. It takes place usually at the beginning of February. It's a horror / pop culture con. They were in their third year, and it was pretty carefree back then. I think we were about a month and a half out from whenever everything really hit. Before that, I was at the Albuquerque Comic Con, which gets a pretty decent sized crowd.
Yeah.
Again, no masks, and maybe we heard a little rumblings, but everybody was, it was business as usual. And I mean, you just had me think. I think, I just had so much stuff scheduled last year, and all this stuff from March is like, oh, we're gonna postpone till like June or May.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be fine then. We'll
Yeah.
be fine then. Can you still make it? I'm like, yeah, sure. I could, a couple months, no big deal. And then, a lot of them started pushing to August and then October. Some went to November. I'm like, that's it. That's it for the rest of the year. And I was really bummed out. I mean, as we all were, when we saw that this was bad, and it was not a good idea for lots of people from all over the world to gather in one enclosed indoor space.
Yeah.
And of course, a little selfish. I felt bad that I wouldn't be going to all these conventions, but I felt bad for guys like you two, who a lot of your business, or most of your business, or all of your business is, or a majority of your business is based on going to conventions and doing transactions there.
Yeah.
And I felt I felt bad for you guys for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, the name of the panel is creating content in a constantly changing world, and there's nothing. I mean, I think in my lifetime, I can't think of a more changing experience than 2020. It's everything, the entire, not just the pop culture industry, but every industry was completely turned upside down from the coronavirus. And like you mentioned, I think that's cons in general. It's been really, really tough. I know for for all the vendors that I know, myself included, like just devastating because none of us had expected to cut, that for Here Within, like a significant amount of our income and as well as our media coverage and a lot of our partnerships, all that come from cons. And so, we just didn't expect that sort of the bottom to drop out so dramatically. And so, how
Yeah.
did
I had
yeah, I
a
was gonna ask you, how did it affect you? Yeah.
uh well, I had a book coming out last year, and it was supposed to come out in May 2020, and I build my entire year around it. So every event was gonna be book ripped, and I was gonna do all kinds of panels and Q&As and events and signings and whatever. And so then the not only were all the events canceled, but then the release was pushed back to August. And by then it was like there was no way to try to do really anything except promote online. And then so that was definitely a really big blow, like for me and my career, and just sort of like expecting this thing that I worked so hard on to finally like be brought to the world, and it's not the same at all.
Um,
uh,
so let's back up a little bit. I didn't get a chance to let you share a little bit about kind of the breadth of what you do. So, you get the book, but you want to give a snapshot of kind of like what, how you create content in your space?
well, I started as a fan going to conventions, and I fell into the cosplay space over 20 years ago. And so I've always been active in that space. And so I started, I guess, my career in cosplay was through doing costume commissions and making cosplay accessories. So I was a vendor at conventions until the pandemic for many, like over a decade, just going to conventions and selling my products there. And then, like, over the years, I've been going to conventions also as a judge for costume contests, panelist, guest speaker, guest whatever. And so that was another avenue of the my content creation. And so just like educational and appearances, meeting people in person, talking to them about cosplay and motivating them to cosplay. And eventually that culminated in writing the book. I have a copy here. It's very purple like everything else in my life. But yeah, I wrote this book. It's about my life story, how I discovered cosplay, but also like how cosplay has evolved in the last 20 years of what I call modern cosplay. And so I was really expecting to be able to take this and connect with people on a deeper level, like all the things that I've wanted to talk about and say that I couldn't just put in a social media post or put in a panel, like I put in a book. And so, but yeah, like my everything I do, all the content I do surrounding cosplay. And so I can talk when it's time about like what I've been doing since the pandemic.
Yeah. Okay.
But Ming, yes.
Yeah.
What do you do? Like,
I
so that
and
for people
I
who don't
love that
know.
so much. So, I used to be on a TV show called Comic Book Men, which aired
Yeah.
after The Walking Dead, and basically, it was basically like that TV show Pawn Stars,
Mhm.
but instead of a pawn shop, it took place in a comic book shop. Instead of old documents and I guess vintage cars or whatever they had on that show, we dealt in buying and selling vintage toys and comic books. And basically it was four geeks in a comic book shop with a lot of what if questions and making fun of each other. The goings on in a comic book shop. It was Kevin Smith's comic book shop, the actor, filmmaker, head geek in charge, I guess. And yeah, we did that for 7 years, and that recently ended back in 2018. So, um, and I would say the best thing that came out of that show, besides being able to showcase our nerd culture to a wider audience, was I got invited to Comic Cons, and
Yeah.
I was like Yaya and you. We were just fans, and I loved going to conventions. I loved meeting artists and of course going to vendors and spending way too much money. And I remember, the early days of cosplay when, uh, you know, guys and girls would make, Wolverine and Rogue costumes out of cardboard or whatever they could find. And I loved seeing that evolution, thanks to people like Yaya,
Mhm.
showing people, it can be better and you can use this stuff called Warbler. And there's this new thing called EVA craft foam that you can do anything with. And you can burn your hands in an oven shaping Warbler, and it got really advanced. But so I got to if you go to convention, I got to see both sides of the table. I guess I used to wait in line to meet guys like George Perez and guys from some of my old favorite TV shows, and then all of a sudden they were inviting me to go, and I was like, whoa, this is
Mhm.
pretty cool. So I got to go to conventions, as small as say 200 people to San Diego and New York with 200,000 people,
Mhm.
and I was in heaven. I was absolutely in heaven. I got to just meet everybody, made a lot of new friends,
Yeah.
and being a geek back in the day was very isolating. There
Mhm.
weren't a lot of people who would either admit they were geeks or maybe it was just too early. They weren't really into the stuff that we were into that eventually became awesome. But
Mhm.
now, every weekend I was surrounded by tens of thousands of people who didn't look at me like I was from another planet. That,
Yeah.
if I started talking about flux capacitors and the force and dragon eggs and 20-sided dice, they would immediately jump in. Um, yeah, that was something I've been able to do since I think 2014. I started getting invited to conventions, and I was hoping to just keep that going for forever, hopefully. Um, but yeah, in the meantime, I started podcasting, and then with the podcasting, I was like, hey, I love this so much. I wonder if I could show other people how much fun podcasting is.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that in my mind is like, I should open up like a classroom or a studio where I can invite people in to, show them how to podcast. And then I would have a cool nerd space for them to come back and record on a weekly basis. And that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years. And it's been pretty awesome. So we started inviting fellow geeks to come in and start their own podcast, complaining or complimenting, movies and the MCU and geek things. But that's expanded to small businesses. That's expanded to just anybody with a voice or a platform who wants to start a show. So I think and most importantly though, this is something that I really love to do. So I want to spread that love to everybody else. And I think
Yeah.
it's been going pretty well so far.
That's awesome. Well,
That's so
definitely,
cool.
yeah, definitely we'll kind of
Yeah.
dive more into sort of the how you sort of navigated that through the pandemic as well.
Sure.
For me, I my first San Diego Comic Con was 2006, and loved it so much. I knew that I was like, this is my home, it's my people, it's my jam. And I started blogging about it. And back then, there wasn't a ton of blogs that were going, especially about San Diego Comic Con. And so during that sort of 2009, 10, 11 era, when Comic Con started to blow up, I started like, really just blogging, creating content and videoing and all that sort of stuff around the sort of phenomenon and the culture of Comic Cons.
Mhm.
Um, then after sort of years of sort of that route, building up content through that, I was cosplaying and then creating sort of fanware and just kind of experimenting, as every con, going to every con and wearing something different or unique or creating something original and doing some cosplay. And kind of through that experience and through fan interaction and people sort of responding to it, I was like, wow, like there's like a real opportunity to create something, some sort of new sort of geek apparel that's subtle and sophisticated and it's fun and different and not the typical t-shirt and hoodies that we've all seen and have and stacked up in our closet. Um, so in 2016, I launched Hero Within, and we've been going ever since, and it's been about 4 years now, and every year has been tremendously crazy different. But one thing's been constant has been shows like WonderCon and San Diego Comic-Con. It has been like such a huge place for us to not only just generate revenue, but just to build our customer base and grow our fans, and to sort of like just basically expand into the geek fashion space. And so we felt a big loss after this past year, and as we go into this year. So uh, a big challenge. But for me, I mean, I'll share a little bit later on, but just trying to manage merchandise and production, and especially when a significant amount of our factories are overseas in China. And so
Mm-hmm.
just that whole process from, because for us, the whole, our factories were shutting down back in, even though the coronavirus had hit the States in March, the coronavirus was already affecting China back in January, February. So, so we were already in the middle of sort of like what's happening, and starting to do some damage control there. So definitely we've had to make some pivots. We had to do a lot of changes and make a lot of adjustments. And so, um, Yaya, let me ask you, as you went into last year, no one expected what we experienced. What were some of the first sort of major pivots that you had to sort of do? I know there's a lot of disappointment because you weren't able to launch your book on time and all that, but what were a couple things that you had to do to sort of not just survive, but also sort of like to grow into new sort of directions?
Well, I have a warehouse and office and a small team of people, like employees, here in Atlanta where I live. And we once the conventions cancel, because we would create products and prep for conventions and pack and stuff, and we also have an online store, but obviously our focus had been on conventions just because that's what took up most of the time and was like where our customer base was. And so we weren't really prepared to shift the entire focus to online sales. That took a little while. And I was like in the middle of building a new website with an integrated shop, but that did not get finished until the end of 2020. But the first pivot we did was like, okay, what can we do to work from home? So we created a rotating schedule so that we would try not be in the same space with each other as much as possible. Like, I don't know if you remember, but at the beginning, it truly was like, you should not be in contact with anyone.
Yeah.
You should go grocery shopping, send one person in your household to go grocery shopping. And, like, workplaces truly is just like no two people in one space. So we like four people trying to avoid each other, but also still like, if I had to sign something, that had to be done before the person could come in to pack and ship things. And then the whole March, April, I was like learning about face masks, because obviously with a shortage of PPE back, it really affected me. Like I felt like, okay, I can sew, my two employees can sew, there's three of us, we have to make face masks. And we did them for donation, because like I have elderly neighbors in this neighborhood that were asking, like, people were kind of like, well, you sew, are you making face masks? And like CDC's guidelines were still really weird about face masks. So we're just like, is it okay for us to make face masks? So I'm like trying to try different styles of masks and trying different materials. So we ended up making like 300 face masks for like donation and such.
Cool.
And we sort of figured out through the making process, like, okay, we have kind of a system down, like we can maybe offer this to the public as well. So at the end of April, we started offering face masks to the public, and that really, I think that really saved our business. Like that allowed us to keep going, keep everybody on payroll. I didn't have to cut anyone's hours. But of course, like that meant that for months, I was making face masks instead of making costumes.
Yeah.
And I was so focused on this new thing that I really couldn't create content for cosplay or sort of my brand in that way. So I kind of, dropped off from the community a little bit. And then when the book was supposed to come out in August, I did a push and was like doing more lives and doing more interviews and, trying to like promote the book more. But 2020 was very difficult for creative endeavors just in general. For someone like me, like with like limited space, it was like once the face masks were set up, then I couldn't really switch over to having cosplay material set up because the space has to be kind of sanitized. And it's like now we're making a product that people are going to wear on their faces, so it's like precautions have to be taken. But like I feel like towards the end of the year, more and more people got face masks. Like everybody has face masks now, so it's like the sales have dropped off, but that was never going to be like the a permanent change. Like we never were going to just like become a face mask company or something. So it's like, but we're really grateful that it got us through last year. And so now we are still making face masks, but also thinking of other products and ideas for 2021. So like my focus is back more on the cosplay shop and, trying to grow the online marketing and sales business that way.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, for here within, we're kind of in a similar place. We back in March, by the end of March, we shifted all of our factories over to face mask production. And so they had gone from Chinese New Year ending in January to then being closed down in February because of coronavirus.
Yep.
For most of February and March. And then so when they came back, we just had to switch over to producing face masks. So then we created face masks. We also took some customer donations, combined that to produce as many face masks as possible to go towards. We had shipped to like different hospitals and nursing homes and medical facilities. But it was kind of crazy, like because we were so grateful to do it, but then it is very surreal, right? Because you're like neck deep in face masks, and you're just like, what has happened? Like, because it's a very meaningful and important venture, but it's not a creative one. So, as artists, we want to make it unique or whatever, but for the most part, it's you're just mass producing at that point. And so it's a kind of a surreal, experience. Grateful to have partnered with customers to help it impact those in need, first responders for sure. But mid last year, it was kind of like, wow, this is like we're not a face mask company. We never meant to be. We're pivoting to do it because it's important, but it was sort of we kind of felt our business was a little bit in crisis because we're like, we'll do this as long as we can. It's because it wasn't a financially sustainable model to do face masks, but it kind of kept us moving along and going, and but it was certainly like after we pivoted, it was like it was a weird sort of surreal thing, because we're like we've become a face mask company all of a sudden.
Yeah. So, and it's like, when do you stop making face masks?
Right.
Is the pandemic gonna get to a point where people don't have to wear masks anymore? We're still about a year away from that, but so many companies have made face masks that like now people only buy masks that they like. So it's like, it's not so much a necessity anymore. It's turning into like a style item. Like my mask, I have a couple here. Like my mask, like I just source like geeky fabrics, and they're just like they're simple, but they're comfortable. And then hopefully, like if I have some fabrics, people would want like a Demon Slayer mask or Animal Crossing mask or something. But yeah, like you're right. Like my focus is also not like that doesn't fulfill
Yeah,
me in the
absolutely.
long run as a creative person, you know. And so it's sort of trying to balance when do you pivot back? Now you've pivoted into this new market.
Yeah.
When do you, you know, stop buying materials and stop, you know, ordering quantities and
Yeah.
come back to producing, you know, what you were before?
Yeah.
Like we don't quite know.
Ming, how about you? How what were some of the pivots early on that you had to do to sort of make it through? Because your podcasting company obviously relies on a lot of interaction and people being face to face and doing podcasts in person. And what did you have to do to change that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the main business models was, I intended to bring people back together and talk and interact face to face. Too many people are doing this, and I was like, that finally we have, kind of a medium where you can get your friends together once a week and record a podcast on something that you guys really loved. And I loved sitting at a table and watching them interact with each other and getting into heated arguments or agreeing with each other face to face. And yeah, in March, when the governor was like, "Well, that's it. You can't have people in the same room with each other." I I panicked for maybe about 4 hours. So I came in here, I started throwing all my gear into bags, like garbage bags, like whatever I could carry, and I took it all back home. Um, I didn't know what it was gonna be like outside. Like, I watched too many movies. I guess I thought there were gonna be tanks on the street and telling people to stay inside. I just didn't know, and yeah, I was like, man, that's what do I do? I can't, most of podcasting is people coming together in the same room and talking to each other. But then I remembered, some of our podcasters would use this thing called Zoom to bring in people remotely. Um, Now we did that pretty rarely because I really did insist. I was like, if you can make it down here and be face to face with your guests, then I insisted on them doing that. Because this, I was like face to face. That's the purest form of interaction, and I never really considered having everybody on Zoom because I was like, oh well, that's you're really gonna lose so much interaction
Yeah.
doing that. Plus, prior to last March, like nobody knew what a Zoom was. And even if they did, they were very reluctant to use it because it was like, oh, I gotta get on my computer. Audio settings? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
They were very reluctant. But when you're forced to do it, you learn very quickly and you
Yeah.
adapt very quickly. So I was like, well, there's this Zoom thing. Maybe we can bring all of our podcasters together on that. My main thing was all the people who would come in and record their shows on a regular basis. I did not want them to stop. I think I was like, not only did they want to keep going, but my thought was if they had to stop for an extended period of time, then they might stop forever. We may
Mhm.
never be able to get them back. So I was like, hey, let's try this. Let's get everybody together on Zoom, give it a try, and see if your show will work the same. And I love. I think my main thing, I podcast with my friends. So and if you watch Comic Book Men, we make fun of each other a lot. It's how we show love here on the East Coast. And I was worried. I was like, can I make fun of my friends across a computer screen? And within 3 seconds, I was like, okay, this will work. This is definitely gonna. Yeah, we were busting each other's balls like we were, as if we were in person. And yeah, slowly but surely, we brought everybody together on Zoom, and they were able to continue their shows. And not only that, for any of our podcasters that were coming from, maybe say an hour and 45 minutes away, they decided to continue on a more regular basis, just because
Mhm.
it was easier for them. So in a way, we were our business even grew a little bit.
Mm.
Um, uh,
That's
Thanks to
great. Podcasts are huge.
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been listening to so many podcasts
Has
this
the
past year.
has the podcasting
Awesome.
industry has it like statistically has it grown just through the
Yeah,
pandemic?
yeah, yeah. It definitely grew. I think a lot of the people who were like, "Oh man, I want to start a podcast on whatever geek culture
Yeah.
or movies," but they're like, "Oh, I'm too busy,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
or it was always on the back burner. Now that they were sitting at home, and you can't go out, there are less distractions. they're like, hey, I should call Ming. I should call a shared universe and see if they can help me get my podcast started. That it kind of accelerated something that they had in the back of their mind, and all I wanted to do was sit there and help them. So I was able to help a lot of people launch shows, and I knew once they did it once, they would be hooked for forever. Which is what happened to me and a lot of people,
Yeah.
and yeah, not only that, we were able the technology to live stream, things like like a Zoom meeting or a podcast. Uh, all of a sudden became way easier over the pandemic. So I started teaching people how to live stream and interact with people, on a global basis. And people now all of a sudden people can comment and you can interact with people on the internet as well. So um, and not only that, for the first many months where we were just supposed to stay home, the fact that I could talk to other people really kept me sane. I think it kept a lot of people sane. I think it kept a lot of people, from going crazy,
Yeah.
for sure. And I was happy to just help people do that. And yeah, it worked out. Things like Zoom, and there's another platform called StreamYard that a lot of people use to live stream and interact. I think I not only did it save our business, but I think it kept a lot of people sane and just made things not so bad
Yeah.
in a world where during a worldwide pandemic, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, speaking of sanity, I know that uh, for myself, it was great to be able to have all these tools and resources. Hold on one sec. You guys want to see my new puppy?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Oh my,
I've seen
absolutely.
your puppy on Twitter.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy. It's a Pomeranian, a husky. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a
my goodness.
It is.
miniature husky.
Hi.
That's
That's
crazy.
so great.
You woke up?
What's up,
Okay,
buddy?
okay.
Oh,
She went. Came
What's
up.
up, buddy?
Um,
So great.
that's one of the things that keep me sane is that we got a puppy. So, but speaking of sanity, I know for me, like the reason why conventions were so important was, me and my team, we would create a product, we'd work hard months and months and months, and then we would rather release product or we would tease product or announce something new at a convention. We have a lot of fan interaction. Of course, there's sales and then there's all this sort of stuff that goes on with it. But when you're doing it all from home, it kind of feels like, I know that social media is important and that's a big part, but it also feels like a little bit like you're just sort of like on a factory line cranking out widgets and just sending them off to the ether. And I know just like, I know mental health has been a challenge for many people across the world. But I felt like just as a content creator, like, last year, I think I've definitely felt the lowest I've ever felt because I just was like, I didn't sign up just to create widgets and just to like ship this stuff out and not be able to like have the fan interaction that's so important to myself as an artist as well as to the business. And so, last year was tough because it just felt like, does anyone care about what I'm doing? And is any of this really matter in a sense? And so, especially in light of this, there are half a billion people, half a million people dying, it's like, so how did you handle it mentally this past year? And especially since we're going into another year that's gonna be similar, how did you keep yourself as a creator, just not just only staying sane, but then also like, how do you keep yourself inspired and motivated and keep you moving throughout this difficult time?
if you're asking me, I didn't. I was just like you. I started questioning everything and started, I was not inspired. I was not productive. And I think last year, it just, this situation coupled with the issues in the world, the Black Lives Matter movement and all of the violence against Asian Americans, and then the election, like, it really, like, it just, everything, it did affect me a lot. It made me wonder, like, what am I trying to tell people that they should go and cosplay? Like, what is cosplay, when all of these serious things are happening in the world. And so I did not create for months, and I really struggled and I felt very guilty the whole time. And I also had trouble connecting with my friends just on a personal level. Like I felt like um, my problems were superficial compared to what was going on in the world. So I didn't want to complain to them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the beginning of this year that I think I realized, and a lot of my friends realized, like many of us have felt the same way. We just didn't know how to talk about it, and we needed time to sort of understand what happened. And I think that that's what the pandemic has really been unique, and it's like it has stripped away all of the distractions of life and made you face all of these problems and issues and pain that, you know, for so many years we would never like address because we were busy with conventions and prepping the next costume and the next photo shoot and whatever. So I think it's very like it's important to talk about and to recognize that we're in for another however many months, and while there is a, you know, light at the end of the tunnel, it is sort of like this requires endurance. So be kind to yourself. So be, you know, give yourself time to not be okay. It's like it's okay to not be okay, and you need to spend more time on self-care instead of like worrying how much output you have. And so I can tell you, like whoever's watching, even the most successful creators, like in my industry, people that I've talked to in private, they're all struggling. They're all struggling one way or another because we are social creatures, and a huge part of our humanity has been stripped away. So and if it takes longer for somebody to find the inspiration, that's okay. Like for me, it took a year. Like it wasn't until I started building photo sets in my warehouse that I found inspiration to cosplay again. And that was at the beginning of 2021. Like I was like, what am I doing with this warehouse that, you know, is like mainly just storing inventory? So we cleared a corner of it, and I started making photo sets to do themed photo shoots in. So I did a Valentine's set, and I did like a really like, you know, library study set for a Witcher Yennefer photo shoot. And I've just been filled with so many ideas of different photo shoots I want to do, and that's been motivating me to work on costumes. So it's like before we had conventions where we're like, all right, I need to work on this costume to go to the convention and take photos and meet people. That gave you motivation to do it. And like I because you can't go anywhere, I was like, damn it, I'm just gonna build my own set. And just that one decision changed so much of my mindset and sort of like unlocked the creativity. So it's like, of course, I wish I had found that sooner, but I'm grateful that I found it. And now I have, you know, many ideas and things that I'm gonna do a photo shoot tomorrow and then build my next set after that. And so it just sometimes it takes a bit longer, but you know, it's like take care of yourself. Like right now, just most important thing is take care of yourself and your loved ones.
Ming, how about you? How just mentally did you handle the challenges from last year?
I mean, you guys brought up a good point. Any convention I went to where, you know, I was like, what booth number is Hero Within? Like, I got to go over there. I mean, both of you have created, you know, you don't just have a booth. You guys have created environments. You know, you have the white brick paneling, and yeah, it's always a party over at your booth with the lights and the music, and like I always want to have my booth like that, but I travel with two old guys who were on the TV show with me who hate loud music and lights. So one day it'll just be like Ming Town.
There you go.
Yeah.
It'll be like yours. But I mean, I love going to the Hero Within booth and of course trying everything on. But and buying stuff for other people. Hopefully, but I love seeing first time people discover your stuff and
Yeah.
so and I don't think that's gonna go away. So I think when that comes back, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah, with all that. Yeah, and I love that interaction. I loved meeting fellow fans. That was the thing that I was missing when I was in high school. I didn't have anyone to talk to about, Iron Man and the Avengers, and nobody knew who the X-Men were at one point. And at my high school, if you can imagine that, like it was me trying to scream to people. I was like, "Don't you see how cool this is?" And nobody saw it. And I was like, "All right, one day, everyone will know." And that day has come, fortunately. But in the podcasting space, we I started doing a lot of live streaming throughout my time, and slowly, I think around our area, people started seeing it, and there came to be one day where a local food bank was like, "Hey, usually, traditionally, we do this huge in-person gala where we raise a bunch of money for our food bank, and we can't do that anymore. Um, is there any way we could live stream like an event where we could raise money? We'll do it in our warehouse with we'll pare it down to 3 people, and we have a week. Can you do this in a week?" And I'm like, yeah, I think I can help you out. And so I went over there and we did that, and I was like, wow, that went really well. And I was kind of like, I wonder, I bet we could, with the lack of in-person events, we could live stream some of these fundraisers and help people out, help people raise money that way. So I started helping other people. I did one for the Boys and Girls Club around here, and some other organizations. And I'm hoping to continue that. But I mean, in terms of fulfillment, it felt good to use, what started as me complaining about about DC movies. And live streaming it out to to just other nerds, to using that to help other people around the area. I mean, I guess in terms of fulfillment, that really worked out. But I think helping people, podcast and bring people together, that and just helping them look forward to something,
Yeah.
and being able to see their friends even when they're not stuck at home. Even seeing them in a little box on the screen, and helping them stay sane that way, helped me feel that kind of valid. What I'm doing is somewhat. I'm doing what I can. I'm in a world where it's tough when you can't get out, and I think yeah, that made me feel a little better, I guess, about during this dark time that that we're going. But yeah, I do miss being out there and seeing just seeing you guys in person.
Yeah.
And but I think all of us, I mean, the point, I love that you guys took the skills that you guys had and used it to help other people out. I think I wish everybody could do that. And that may have come at some kind of a personal expense as well. But in terms of helping humanity in the world, that's invaluable. You can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We another particular challenge for us was that our business is for Here Within, we kind of focus on this more elevated, sophisticated apparel, blazers and jackets and dresses. And this past year, we realized that no one's going anywhere, no one's doing anything, and there's no events. So I was stuck with a bunch of inventory that was relatively obsolete. I mean, it would be needed later on, but really the demand has been the comfort wear and sweats and hoodies and that kind of thing, and different from what we normally create. But even at that, I mean, when's the last time you've bought multiple sets of sweats over the course of a year? Like people are buying, but they're not buying at the same rate as they buy like a new shirt or a new jacket or that kind of thing. So so we switched to that, and we started creating more comforts and casual wear, joggers and hoodies and that kind of thing. And and that certainly has helped. We also switched to creating a series of enamel pins that represent different fandom, and mainly because of the poor economy, people didn't have as much expendable income to be able to buy. They're not gonna buy a $99 jacket, but maybe they could buy a $9 pin. You know, this still represent what they love and support us. And so you know, again, it's like doing the best we can to sort of adjust and shift with the times, and hopefully as we kind of close out this year, we'll be able to sell, you know, our kind of what our sweet spot, sell that type of apparel to the market. As we sort of use our last couple minutes here, what is for those people who are aspiring to create in a similar space, whether it's creating content, podcasting, even, you know, the big question is cosplay dead? You know, because we're not having these big events. I mean, like, how do you encourage young artists to how do they take the next step right now? Like, what, you know, if they're wanting to get out there and create content, what do they do? Like, what do you, how would you encourage, Yaya, how would you encourage a young cosplayer we can't go to cons, and so, you know,
Uh,
what do you, yeah, what do you say?
Yeah, well, cosplay is not dead.
Yeah.
The cosplay community has actually pivoted very well to the online space, and that is because cosplay is a visual art form, and it goes so well with social media. So, the cosplay space is still going strong. It's different, of course. So it's like some people are more successful now than they were before. So it's like it sort of is a trade-off. But I see a lot of cosplayers on TikTok. They, you know, are able to create a little community for themselves. I see a lot of cosplayers streaming and just creating merchandise on Etsy and stuff. A lot of them have been making face masks and other, you know, one-off items like handmade items. So I think it's like we are waiting for conventions to come back, but we're still here, and you know, there are more of us that are learning how to shoot at home. Actually, from March, the Cosplay Realms magazine, their whole entire issue is about shooting at home, self-shooting cosplay. And so there will be lots of articles and submissions from people around the world that have like done photo shoots, and you know, we're going to be like, I'm on the cover actually, but you know, I have a full article where I talk about how I built my sets, and you know, how people can get into self shooting as well. So I do really think there are still like there's still lots of ways for people to cosplay. It's just it's a different way of looking at it. So like instead of making a huge giant impressive costume to walk convention with, you know, maybe do some smaller costumes, or do like a makeup test, or you know, just like do little videos, or you know, share your how you make things on a live stream. And but like crafting, we do crafting at home. So it's like this, from that aspect, that like this is all right. Like it's a safe and good environment. We just need to feel inspired. So it's about keeping that inspiration alive.
Yeah. Ming, for aspiring podcasters, what would you say?
I would say, you know, the tools to create a podcast are, you know, you don't need fancy microphones. You don't need to spend money on gear. You can use Zoom. Like this is basically a podcast episode right here. Get your friends together either on Zoom or, you know, and start. I all those conversations that you guys used to have at the hotel bar after a convention, like that's a podcast. The only difference is you weren't recording it there. Imagine if you did record those there and release those out to a worldwide audience, how much fun that would be. And you know, if you need any help, there are other podcasters who are out there willing to help you out. I've always said that you know, if you're a fan, the one thing that you'll always have and that you'll always defend is your opinion. And that's the one thing that we'll always have. Why not get together with a bunch of friends who also either share your opinion or may even just disagree with your opinion? Record that, have some good debate, and I think this is what we do. This is why we go to conventions, anyways. And it's as simple as if you have a voice, you can create content, and you can go from there. The tools to if you ever wanted to live stream that, or get it on video, create a YouTube channel, stream on Twitch, stream on YouTube. All the tools are there, and they're very simple to use. And if you get stuck somewhere, there are always so many people that are willing to help you out. Um, but and then when conventions do come back, not only am I looking forward to going back, but I'm looking forward to promoting podcasts in the convention world as well. My dream is to somehow, how they have an artist alley. My dream is to someday every convention will have a podcast alley
Yeah,
where
cool.
there'll be a row of
Cool.
podcasters. Yeah, and then all the podcasters there can interact with each other and be guests on each other's show. But not only that, you have a plethora of media guests that hopefully will want to come down and be interviewed on all these shows. Like, how great would that be? And I'm looking forward to making that happen someday.
Yeah. For me, for people who are interested in getting into merchandise, creating products, this is actually a great time to experiment with some of that, because so much was reliant on, for instance, if you want to get a license for a particular product, like so much was dependent on who you knew and meeting them in person, getting your foot in the door and all that. But now because everything's all virtual and all email based, it's a great opportunity to just start reaching out to all these different properties. If you have a viable product. Over this past year, even though we weren't able to go to conventions, we ended up locking down the Doctor Who license with the BBC, and then Godzilla with Toho. And because these licenses are all looking for, during this pandemic, new partners and new partnerships and new opportunities. And there's sort of in the landscape of licensing, people are looking for new partnerships because the pandemic is forcing us all to create as many opportunities as possible. So I definitely would encourage anyone who's kind of stepping into that sort of, whether if you're creating a t-shirt or toy or whatever you're creating, this is a great time to start experimenting and reaching out. And you never know who you might come across via email or through social media and all that, because everyone right now is looking for new people to partner with, new brands, new customers, new artists, and all that. So this is the time to reach out and to do it, because this time we're in right now is very slow and arduous, but we'll blink and we'll be back in the rat race once again. Just busy,
Yes.
constantly busy, and
Yep.
all of a sudden, like, there's no time to create, there's no time to like connect and all that. And so while it's slow and while everyone's stuck at home, this is the time to reach out and try to create, some new partnerships. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
very good advice.
yeah, the time has already gone by. And I'm so grateful for you two and for everything that you do for the pop culture community. And even though, this year is also going to be a challenge, I know that there are many people, many fans who follow you two, and who are looking forward to the next chapter of what you're doing. Is there anything that you guys want to share as far as kind of anything that's coming up next for you that's you'd like to share? Any new anything? Yeah.
I guess I will be starting to stream soon
All
on
right.
Twitch. So I have like the Yaya Han account there. I have
Mhm.
not started streaming yet. I've never had time. And so now like my room is set up. I feel good, and I'm I want a connection with people. So I will be starting to do weekly streams
Very cool.
very soon.
Yeah. Ming, how about you?
And I'm gonna subscribe to your Twitch channel.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
Subscriber
for
number
sure,
one.
everybody should.
Your first two
I
subscribers
should be.
right here.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you have any questions about podcasting, or I can help you get started for sure. The podcast studio is called A Shared Universe, and the website is ashareduniverse.com, or at A Shared Universe on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would love to help you get started. Or if you have a podcast already and you want me to come on with you, I'm always here for you guys as well. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, and I am looking forward to seeing you two in person soon. We'll be back at it soon for sure.
Yes.
Well, for Here
Yes.
Within, we've got a new product coming out, new product for Justice League, since the Snyder Cut is coming out, as well as for Godzilla, for the Godzilla vs. King Kong movie. So definitely check out Here Within, and we got all kinds of new stuff coming out later this year. But until then, I hope and pray that we don't have to do WonderCon 3 years in a row.
Oh God, please.
But miss you too. Miss all of our fans. Thank you so much for joining us all who are watching. I hope you have an awesome WonderCon at home, and we will see you at a live con, hopefully sooner than later.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.